By noon, Karen's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. The video was everywhere: TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Nextdoor. Someone had recorded her pool incident from their apartment balcony, and now HOA Karen's boiling water attack was trending with over 2 million views. She sat in her pristine home office, surrounded by perfectly organized HOA binders and violation notices, watching her reputation dissolve in real time. The comments were brutal. "This woman needs therapy and jail time. Imagine being this miserable at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday. Someone call CPS. She's endangering children." Her phone rang. "Karen, what the hell were you thinking?" The voice belonged to Marcus Chen, the HOA treasurer, and the only board member who still answered her calls. "I was enforcing community standards," she replied, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. "Those children were? Those children were being children. Do you realize we're getting calls for your resignation?" The management company is in full panic mode. Karen stood up, pacing to her window that overlooked the community pool. It was packed now, families enjoying the afternoon sun, kids splashing and laughing. The same laughter that had triggered her morning meltdown. "They think they can just ignore the rules," she muttered. "First it's pool hours, then it's parking violations, then property values plummet and, Karen, listen to yourself. You poured boiling water into a pool because kids were swimming 13 minutes early." The line went quiet. Karen pressed her forehead against the cool glass, watching Mrs. Rodriguez and her children below. Tommy was cannonballing into the deep end while his mother watched, relaxed and smiling. When had Karen stopped smiling? "The emergency board meeting is tonight," Marcus continued. 7 p.m. in the clubhouse. "You need to be there, and you need to have a damn good explanation." After hanging up, Karen scrolled through more comments, each one a digital dagger to her carefully constructed authority. But buried in the hatred was something that made her pause. "My mom was just like this, controlled everything because she couldn't control her own life. Took 20 years of therapy to understand she was drowning." Karen stared at that comment for a long time. Drowning. The word echoed in her mind as she watched children playing Marco Polo in the very pool she tried to weaponize that morning. Her laptop chimed with a new email. The subject line made her blood freeze. "Legal notice. Willowbrook Estates, HOA Board." The message was brief but devastating. The management company was launching an investigation into her conduct, and several residents were considering legal action. She was drowning, all right, but instead of reaching for help, she'd been pulling everyone else under with her. Karen closed her laptop and walked to her bedroom closet, pulling out a box she hadn't opened in 3 years. Inside were photos from before the divorce, before the HOA presidency, before she'd turned into the neighborhood villain. Pictures of her laughing at barbecues, helping neighbors with yard work, playing with children at community events. When had she become the enemy? Karen Whitmore adjusted her designer sunglasses and marched across the pristine lawn of Willowbrook Estates, her heels clicking against the sidewalk like a metronome of impending doom. She clutched her HOA violation clipboard so tightly her knuckles had turned white, matching her perfectly pressed polo shirt emblazoned with HOA BOODPRESIDENT in bold letters. The sound hit her first, children's laughter echoing from the community pool. Her eye twitched. It was 8:47 a.m. on a Tuesday, and according to Section 4.2b of the HOA handbook she'd memorized, the pool opened at 9:00 a.m. sharp. Not 8:59, not 8:58, but 9:00 a.m. "Excuse me," she bellowed, her voice cutting through the morning air like a foghorn. The laughter stopped instantly. 3 kids, maybe 8 or 9 years old, froze in the shallow end, their wide eyes reflecting pure terror. A young mother in a faded bathing suit looked up from her poolside chair, shielding her eyes from the sun. "Ma'am, the pool doesn't open for another 13 minutes, Karen announced, consulting her phone with theatrical precision. "This is a clear violation of community guidelines." "Oh, I'm sorry," the mother stammered, standing up. "The gate was open, and I thought." "The gate being open doesn't override HOA regulations, Mrs." Karen flipped through her clipboard, locating the woman's name through sheer force of bureaucratic will. Rodriguez. Your lease clearly states pool hours. Little Tommy Rodriguez, still waist-deep in water, raised his hand timidly. But it's hot, and Mom said we could swim before she goes to work. Karen's smile could have frozen lava. Rules are rules, young man. Now everyone out. Immediately. When the family didn't move fast enough for her liking, Karen disappeared into the pool house and emerged with a large pot she'd commandeered from the community kitchen. She marched to the outdoor spigot, her movements sharp and purposeful. "What are you doing?" Mrs. Rodriguez asked, stepping closer to her children. Providing motivation, Karen replied, filling the pot with water. She disappeared back into the pool house, and moments later, the sound of the microwave hummed ominously. 5 minutes later, she returned with the steaming pot, her face flushed from both heat and righteous indignation. "Last chance to exit voluntarily." "Lady, you're crazy," Tommy shouted, but his voice cracked with genuine fear. Karen positioned herself at the pool's edge, holding the pot of boiling water like a weapon. "This pool will be properly sanitized and ready for its official opening time, not a moment before." She tilted the pot, and the scalding water hit the pool surface with a violent hiss, sending up a cloud of steam. The children scrambled out so fast, they nearly slipped on the wet concrete, their mother rushing to wrap them in towels while shooting Karen a look that could melt steel. "You're absolutely psychotic," Mrs. Rodriguez whispered, but Karen heard every word. "I'm thorough," Karen corrected, already pulling out her phone to document the violation. "This incident will be reported to management." The clubhouse buzzed with tension as Karen entered at 6:58 p.m. She'd never been late to a meeting, and she wouldn't start now, even if it was her own trial. Every seat was filled. Residents who normally couldn't be bothered to attend monthly meetings now packed the room like they were waiting for a public execution. Mrs. Rodriguez sat in the front row, Tommy beside her, both wearing matching Community Unity t-shirts that someone had clearly organized as a statement. The boy looked up at Karen with curiosity rather than fear, which somehow made everything worse. "Let's get started," Marcus announced from behind the board table. The other 3 board members looked like they'd rather be anywhere else. "We're here to discuss the incident from this morning and determine appropriate action." Karen took her usual seat at the head of the table, but it felt foreign now, like sitting in someone else's chair. "Before we begin," she said, her voice quieter than usual, "I'd like to address what happened." The room fell silent. People leaned forward, phones already recording. "This morning, I enforced pool regulations in a way that was," she paused, searching for the right words, "inappropriate, dangerous, wrong." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. This wasn't the defiant Karen they'd expected. "I spent 3 years as ATOA president believing that rules were more important than relationships. I convinced myself that property values mattered more than people's happiness." She looked directly at Tommy Rodriguez. "I scared children because I'd forgotten what it felt like to be one." Mrs. Rodriguez shifted in her seat, her expression softening slightly. "I'm resigning from the board, effective immediately," Karen continued. The room erupted, but she held up her hand. "But I'm not leaving the community. I live here too, and it's time I started acting like a neighbor instead of a warden." After the meeting dissolved into chaos and celebration, Karen found herself alone in the parking lot. The sound of splashing drew her attention to the pool area, where families were enjoying an impromptu evening swim under the lights. "Mrs. Whitmore?" Tony Rodriguez had appeared beside her, dripping wet and holding a pool noodle. "Hi, Tommy," she said, crouching down to his eye level. "I owe you an apology. What I did this morning was scary and wrong." He studied her face with the brutal honesty only children possess. "Mom says you're probably just sad about something." The observation hit harder than any angry comment or legal threat. "Your mom is very wise. Want to come swimming? The pool's open until 10. Karen looked at the water, then at her business suit, then back at Tommy's expectant face. For the first time in years, she smiled. Really smiled. "I don't have a bathing suit." "So, Mom swims in her clothes sometimes when we're being silly." As Karen watched families laughing together in the pool she terrorized that morning, she realized her real punishment wouldn't be resignation or legal consequences. It would be learning to live with the person she'd become, and slowly, carefully, building back the person she used to be. But first, she had to decide if she was brave enough to jump in the deep end. Tommy was still waiting, pool noodle extended like an olive branch, and somehow that felt like the most important decision she'd face.